Hey guys, Mr. Donihoo. I'm going to go through the review that we had in class today, so that tomorrow we're having our test, so y'all can be prepared for that. One correction to make: if you had the tablet version of this, the graph that was there, you should mark out like I have here in red. This one with the arrow pointing to it, that's the one that you should be using for the actual problem. So, gonna go and get started. Number one, identify the x and y intercepts. So that's the first piece, is identify your x and y intercepts. And you have a table to do this. So we're going to look here to get that done. Now, looking for x and y intercepts means that I'm looking for points that have zeros in them. All right, you can see there are two places that have x and y intercepts. Now, there are two points that have zeros in them somewhere. Now, it's which one of these is the x-intercept, which one of these is the y-intercept, then that's the question. So from there, you can think about it and just draw a little graph real quick and plot the points, and then you'll have a better idea of which one's which. So -3, 0. So if on this graph I went 1, 2, 3, 0, okay, that's obviously going to be my x-intercept. It's on the x-axis whenever I just plotted it. So -3 and 0. For this next one, 0, don't go left or right, but 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's obviously going to be on the y-axis. That's going to be my y-intercept. Now, one of the things that we did in class, the second part of this, so we're choosing, so circle the equation with the same x and y intercepts. Okay, so what that means is I'm looking at the information I have here, and I'm deciding on, does this match with those? Now, I have several options on how to do this. One, I can look at the y-intercept. So I have the y-intercept here for both of these equations, but my y-intercept is 6, which means that this equation is not going to match. That's a -12, it's supposed to be a 6. So +6, so that matches. Okay, now you can just real quick check and make sure. We know that this point works for this equation, so 0, 6, that works, we're good. But we can check this other one real quick because we don't know that this point works. So I'm going to take this off here to the side, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to put in a -3 into the equation. 2 times -3 plus 6. And I'll see if I use a -3 here for x, do I get a 0? So just multiply 2 -6 plus 6. That would be 0. Okay, see, so that works for both of these points. So this would be one of my correct options then. That matches, has the same y-intercept, and then when I used the number -3, I got the same x-intercept, 0. And I'll do the same thing for these others. I'm just putting the points in and I'm seeing what works. So for instance here, -3, 0. So I'm going to use a -3 here, and I'm going to use a 0 here. And if I do this, if I use these two numbers in this equation, I should get -18. So doing that, and I'm going to show the work off here to the side. Well, actually, this is a 0, so I don't have to worry about that. I just have to make sure that 6 times -3 equals -18. Yeah, 6 times a negative, that'd be a -18. So that works. So that means that this first point, -3, 0, that's correct. When I put the numbers in, that works out. And I would just do the same thing for the other number, 0, 6. I'd put a 0 in for y, or a 0 in for x, so 6 times 0 minus 3 times 6 equals -18. And again, that would be a 0. So then -3 times 6, yeah, that would be -18. So both of these points work, so that's another equation that matches. Okay, if you want to, you can check this last one, and you can see that it doesn't match, and I'll leave that work to you. Number 2, so that took a little while to explain. I'm going to try to make these a little bit faster. So number 2 is actually a very straightforward problem. This confuses a lot of students because they see that and they're like, whoa, function, I don't know what to do there. The basic thing is 35,000 feet in the air, descending 5,000 feet per minute. When does the plane touch the ground? So I'm looking for a number of minutes. All right, well, there are several things you can do. You can, and I'll just do this off here to the side. You can start with 35,000, and you can just, okay, take off 5,000. That'd be 30,000. Take off another 5. That'd be 25. Take off another 5. And you get the idea. You can keep counting and see, okay, that's 1 minute, that's 2 minutes, that's 3 minutes, and then at what point will you get to 0 or the ground? Other options that you have here are you can use the equation and say, okay, if I have 0 height, if it touches the ground, 0 height, then what does the time have to be? T for time. And you can guess numbers and try them, or you can solve the equation. Move, subtract 35,000, subtract 35,000, and then divide that with negative 5,000, and you'll be able to come up with your answer then. It's a very common sense problem, but if you get caught up in focusing on the function and what to do with that, then it becomes very confusing very quickly. So again, you can just count it out or look at it, move over, divide with the 5,000 and come up with your answer then. Number three, and I'm going to erase some of this from number 2 to make room. So circle the equation that matches the graph shown below. Here's the graph shown below. For each of these, basically what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at the slope. And for this, I'm going to change this. I'm going to move my x over and take my negative y. And I'm going to divide with a negative 1 to change my signs. Okay, so change sign, that's positive, change sign, that's positive, change sign, that's positive. So then where I'm looking for the slope there is going to be here. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. Add a 3, so now I have y equals x plus 3. So I'm going to compare the slope for each of these, because that's one of the easier things to pick out here. Because I can just go in here and I can pick 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2 I pick. And I can do my rise and my run, and I can come up with minus 2 plus 2. Okay, so then that means my slope should be negative 1. So that's what I'm looking for. Here, that's a positive 1. Not going to work. That would be negative 1. So that's correct. After changing this equation, that's a positive 1, so no. And positive 1, so no. So then there's only one of those that matches. Writing equation in point slope form. Now this, I'm going to give you the point slope form, and I'm going to write out the whole thing right now just so you can see what that whole point slope form is. So there's the whole point slope form. Now dealing with this, you're only filling in certain spots of information, and you're not going to have to remember this whole thing. I'll provide this to you. The basic idea is I have a point and I have a slope. I can use that information. There's my y value, there's my x value. Okay, so y minus x value, or y value is 8. My slope, that's 2. That was provided information. And my x value here is my negative 4. So there's the point slope form. Okay, and that's what you're being asked for, so that's what you would give. Okay. Number 5, write an equation that is parallel to the x-axis with that point. Now, you're given a point, so that's one piece of information. You need a second piece of information, and that's the slope, just like with this up here. I have a point, I need a slope to also be able to write down an equation. And what we did in class was, if you think, you can either imagine it in your head or you can draw a little graph for it, but if you're looking at, here's, x, y, here's the x-axis, here's a line that's parallel to the x-axis. Parallel. What's the slope of this parallel line? Well, it's flat, it's not moving up or down, which means that the slope would be 0. Which tells me that I have my pieces of information. You can go ahead and y equals, or sorry, I'm going to erase that. Once you have your slope in your point, you can go in y minus the y value here is -3. Slope is 0. X minus x value is -6. There we go. Done. Okay. Now, number 6 is very similar. Perpendicular. And like I said in class, perpendicular is the opposite of whatever slope that you're given. So I say perpendicular of that. That means opposite of this. So this is the slope that you're given. The opposite of that would be if I change the sign to a positive, negative to positive, and if I change the entire fraction to 4/3. Completely different. Opposite in all things. Sign and numbers. So this is going to be the slope you're going to use. There's your point. All right. Y minus y value is 6. 6 equals, there's the perpendicular slope. X minus x value is 3. And there's an equation that's perpendicular. Okay. Very last one. Describe the transformation. Now again, this boils down to is it horizontal or is it vertical? And then what kind of transformation is happening. Now I'll go ahead and I'll tell you that addition or subtraction is going to be shifting your graph. Right? So you're looking at this subtraction. These are shifts. So looking for answer choices, you're going to look for the keyword shift. Then you need to decide direction. Now, looking at these two transformations, because there are two different ones. There's this first one with the -3, and there's this second one with the -5. Two different things. That means I'm going to have one horizontal. This -3 is affecting the x, so that's horizontal. And one vertical. That -5 is outside of the parentheses. It's not affecting x. All right, so this tells me that this x -3 is going to be going left and right. Now, one of the things with horizontal is whatever you have, switch it to be the opposite. Sorry, I just said switch it and I wrote subtraction again. Switch it to be the opposite of what you have. This -5 is going to stay the same. Okay, so based off of that, you're either going to decide, and it's pretty straightforward at this point, you're either going to be going left or right for horizontal. It's positive, so you're going to be going to the right. It's up and down for vertical. And because this is negative, you're going to be going down. So what you're looking for, keywords, shift, right, 3, and shift, down, 5. These are your keywords that you're looking for in your answer choices, okay? Sorry that was a little longer than I wanted it to be. Hope it helped. Good luck on the test tomorrow, guys.